Hello, my name is Christian, and the claim I'll be refuting is that electrical vehicles have more of a negative impact on the environment. The secondary claim that I'm refuting is the electric vehicles itself have a larger carbon footprint than gas-powered vehicles. The second is manufacturing electrical vehicles create more carbon emission than gas-powered vehicles. And the last is electrical vehicles distract the world from finding a long-term solution to find more economically friendly ways of transportation. The first claim about leaving a larger carbon footprint, the advocate said that electrical car owners would have to at least drive 129 kilometers before saving a net saving on CO2. But then he then talks about how electrical cars will have because of a short charge, will be unsuitable for long travel. But then the whole point is to replace the battery every now and then. And even if he drives, and then he also said even if it drives 160,000 kilometers, he will only save about a ton of CO2 over its lifetime. Well, he just said that pretty much even if you do reach 160,000 kilometers, you still save a large amount, at least a ton amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. According to the Department of Energy Information Administration, a gallon of gas produces about 3 times its weight, or more than 19 pounds of CO2. It is said that coal power produces 1.3 to 1.5 CO2 per kilowatt hour that is produced. So an example would be like a Toyota Corolla will go like 31 miles per gallon, will produce 36.11 pounds of CO2 over 100 miles. An electric Tesla Roadster which will use up 31 kilowatts of electricity per 100 miles, would create only 20 pounds less, which would be like 40.3 and 46.5 pounds of CO2, which is a lot less compared to a gas-powered car. The second I would like to point out, I would like to say the carbon emission created from manufacturing electrical cars is less than a powered vehicle. Electrical cars are known for their zero emission because they're using batteries that have a zero tailpipe emission. The only thing that produces emissions in the whole electrical car industry is pretty much the manufacturing in the electrical power plant. But even the manufacturing of the electrical plant still produces a significant less amount of CO2 compared to the actual from the actual engines running from cars that use on gasoline and diesel. And the last thing I'd like to point out is that electrical vehicles do provide an eco-friendly way of transportation. The advocate pointed out that lithium and other earth rare metals used to create electrical vehicles is not going to be a long-term solution, and that because we don't have an abundance of. Well, actually, we do actually have an abundance of lithium, which is the main source in lithium-ion batteries, which are used in electrical cars. There was a research a study that said that Chile is the main source of lithium in the world, and it's mostly in the Atacama Desert, which produces an economically recoverable total of 48 million tons of lithium. That is equivalent to about 1.58 billion plug-in hybrid electrical cars, and almost 400 million fully electrical vehicles. And also, lithium batteries are also rechargeable and recyclable, which will able to, be easier on cars, and and it's way much cheaper than paying on the pump. So, in conclusion, electric cars it does not have a negative impact, and it's slightly a lot better than using gas-powered vehicles.
All right, I thought that you labeled the main and secondary claims very clearly at the beginning of the speech, so everything's a lot easier to follow as a consequence. As you get to each point, you signpost it pretty clearly. You explain the advocate's argument on the first point effectively, talking about the ton of CO2, and in essence you say, in the long run, it acknowledges that there is a reduction in the CO2 emissions as a consequence of that. And then you try and argue that, in fact, with additional comparisons, the savings would be greater. And I thought that you did a pretty good job developing that argument with at least the comparisons of the two kinds of cars that you're talking about. I'm not sure that those cars would automatically fit in the categories that the advocate mentioned, but it sounds like as if we've got 20-pound different per whatever it was 100 miles that you were talking about. That sounds like it's fairly important. On the second point, when you talk about electrical manufacturing, I think you've got a good claim here, but I didn't hear much evidence to support that claim that the manufacturing process of electrical energy produces far less of the CO2 or the pollutants than the use in fossil fuels in automobiles. You said that, but I didn't hear any proof on that, and so I think the claim is right, but it's underdeveloped, and I'm not sure that you have done much to undermine the advocate's claim by challenging the way they've reasoned on those particular points. In fact, it's quite possible that the evidence that the advocate had on those points addresses the issue that you're talking about here, and again, this would be one of those things, if we were hearing this back to back, it would maybe be a little bit easier to make that quick comparison. On the last issue, I thought that you did a very good job challenging the issue on lithium with some good statistical information. You don't really argue that their evidence is inadequate, but you've got good evidence on your own that suggests that it is substantially available, and that seems to be the main mineral that we're talking about. So I think your challenge and the evidence you provide on that is pretty solid. Watch out about looking down the whole time you're speaking. I think that hurts your credibility a bit. All right. Thanks.